All right, so right now we're just going to do a couple of scans. This is pretty much a kind of a small little video discussing some of my research methods. Basically here we're just searching for some divergence setups, but there's another thing that I like to look at. Overall, we have the market direction. It's a very strong market. I'm not looking at McDonald's. It just happens to be on the screen here, but we'll go back to the SPY right now. And again, you can tell that the market's been very strong. You can feel it, the strength is there. So it's not the best place to short. So we're not looking at short side setups. But anything that I show you today and show you how to find it, just reverse it and you'll find the short setups. But also a big part of it is being in the direction of the market, being on the winning side. Makes things so much easier. All right, so much easier. So so one thing I do is, I've been let's go back here. I've been working on a presentation I'm going to be doing at the trade show this upcoming Tuesday, and our bread and butter is the stochastic divergence. It's such a great setup, and I'm just going back on certain stocks. And even a stock like Cabela's that we got into today, and that's also something that might be interesting to you, is just to go over Cabela's. Love the pullback we got in today. It reversed. We closed a nice bullish engulfing pattern. The volume wasn't there, but it looks pretty good. I mean, we're making money on this. So this has a potential getting back up to that 50 area. But I would take 48, and I would take 52. But that's not the point here. The point is that most charts we look back at will recognize a divergence. Now there's a strict criteria. I already put videos on that, how to take a divergence, what's the criteria for a divergence and stuff. And I don't want to waste too much time talking about that, but I just want to point them out for you and show you the results from each of those big divergences that showed up, and very easy to see them. In this case, you have one back here in February and September. And this is another thing, sometimes it's hard to wait for these. You tend to get into the market, this is not a divergence, we're into it, but these are your go-to trades. These are your money-making trades. Even back here, 3 divergences in a row. It doesn't happen, every few months. But you know what's great? It happens on a lot of stocks, and lots of stocks are a part of certain sectors, and those sectors rotate. So one minute you might get a divergence in retail, or one day, and then a week down the road we might get a divergence in drugs or pharmaceuticals, and then the same thing with basic materials. So we have all these stocks always moving around, pulling back. Some of them are pulling back, some of them are moving higher. We just have to wait for the ones that come into play, and then we take them, and that's it's really money in the bank. The market is an ATM machine for us, but the big question is, do you have the patience and discipline to wait for those setups? Now, part of my research is, like, even today I'm researching. It's Tuesday, and it's great at this point. I like doing that because each setup you find is kind of money in the bank. So I'm always looking for them. But another thing I like to, like you hear my dog in the background there. Another thing I like to scan for when I'm doing my scans is the divergence. And not many out there. There is a few divergences, but also at least once a month. And it doesn't seem like a long, a lot here, but maybe once every couple of weeks, I tend to look at the weekly charts. And then what I do is I have my watch list, which is about 200 stocks. And these are stocks that I try to rotate in and out of. And out of these stocks, you'll see many stocks from drugs, many stocks in basic materials, consumer goods, tech, banking, industrials, utilities, you name it. It's I have it in the focus or in our watch list. So as I rotate through these and search them out, do my scans on this watch list, I'm pointing out the divergences, I'm pointing out the other things. But what I like to do at least a couple of times a month is to take a weekly scan, weekly stochastic scan. We like to have the momentum on our side on the daily, but when you have it weekly, you could really start to count on a bigger trade starting to develop. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm just going to get this weekly scan out of the way, and I'm going to do it with you live and recorded. Now you can hear me kind of having a hard time struggling here talking because I have a bad cold. Sometimes I pause the mic here and kind of put it on mute there so I don't cough in the mic and blow out your eardrums. and so my breathing's all messed up. So I'm going to do that. So I have my watch list, and you could do this scan on, you know, the S&P 500, the Dow 100, the Dow 30, the NASDAQ 100, the Russell 2000. You know, you could, or all the U.S. stocks. It's fine. This, you know, you want to have quality names, so that's one of the first things we want to put together. So if I make my own personal watch list, but you know, like I said, if you're just starting out and you just want to get your feet wet, you know, it's good to just track stocks on the S&P 500. It'll give you plenty of stocks to choose from, and easy enough to set up a scan. Now I'm using TC 2000 as my scanner, and I'm just going to do the scan with you. I'm not going to go into my scans and my formulas and stuff right now, but I just want to, you know, and I got these results. So these are the stocks that are right now. No divergence. I'm not doing a divergence scan. I'm doing an oversold stochastic on the weekly time frame. So I'm going to switch this to the weekly, and that's where we're going to start off. And the first one, right on the top here, is Cabela's. All right, so 60-minute or the weekly stochastics, other than a weekly embedded stochastic, which does not look good. The only reason I'm in this one is because the potential news that might be coming out, and you know, I covered that yesterday on the 10 for 1,000 watch list. But let's just continue to kind of grind through these weekly charts now. This is not the scan I was doing here. Hold on, let me get my right scan up here. So it's still stuck on the hourly. Hold on. All right, so that's the. We're going to switch this up to the weekly. Now OK that. Now it's the weekly, and then I'll OK it. And there we go. Got a whole new scan going right now. So these are my weekly oversold levels that I wanted to pay attention to. I can bring them down here so you can see them a little bit better. Not Fox A. You're going to notice a lot of these are oil and gas sector stocks. Some excuse me, utility stocks, but a lot of oil and gas, and I tend not to, you know, not to like that. So again, what we're looking for is our stochastic oscillator to be underneath this 20 line, and that's the only thing I'm looking at, because sometimes you get it when you start to get a big rally. This rally usually lasts multiple weeks, multiple months. You know, when you start to get a nice trend starting on the weekly chart, which has to start from the, you know, it has to start at one point, and lots of times it starts when it's oversold. So we like to do a scan on there, especially the quality names. Now Hess is interesting because it's showing up on multiple scans. It's also a kind of an HPS setup. It's definitely an HPS setup based off of the multiple indicators that are lining up. You have a trend line breakout and a trend line retracement. You have a 60-minute, a weekly, and you also have almost a double bottom divergence here. So everything here coming together. And it started to move today, as it should. But let's go back to that weekly let's go back to that weekly here. So this is on weekly on our side here. All right, so Hess here we have Scana Corporation, utility stock. You can see oversold. And this is kind of interesting because you can see a nice lower trend line here. It's not a bad pullback on a stock like this. We also have a possibility of a divergence setting up here, and we don't see that too often. So this actually looks pretty good. The SCG. I'm going to write that down, because at the end of this video I actually have some good setups for us going forward. And but I want to get the educational part out of this first, and this basically talking about our weekly setups and understanding that weekly. If you get that weekly behind you, as you can see back here on the weekly, it came oversold, and then boom, we had a 6-month rally. Over here it's weekly, and then boom. So this one's not HP, another oil and gas, and this is kind of interesting. You can see a little trend line underneath us. Not the best performing stocks, but the weekly is now set up. The daily here has a divergence, a double bottom divergence possible. You know, it almost looks like it wants to turn back up and kind of move here. So these are starting to look interesting. The HP, you know, oil and gas type of stocks. FTRs, Frontier Communication, not interested. Apache, another oil and gas stock. You can see that nice rotation on the weekly. That looks very nice. The bigger picture doesn't look great, but the weekly as we did back here, had a nice pop off of it, and even back here we eventually rotated back up. And this again is better to find your trade on your daily or your hourly, and just use your weekly to kind of give you some confidence in how long you want to hold that trade for, because it's very hard sometimes to like get in here and then have to wait a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, just to get a movement. You could get oversold and it could chop around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a month or so. And how many people are going to be hanging on to that? Or if you're trading the options, kiss goodbye to your premium as this starts to decay on you, depending on how what we normally trade. So I like to look at this after the fact that I find one, or if we start to see some weeklies getting oversold on really good quality names like Google or Apple and stuff, then I'd really start to pay attention to these. Bed Bath & Beyond is oversold on the weekly. Not bad. Starting to turn back up. Target's interesting. We have this nice channel right down in the channel, and it's actually turning back up. And you can see this is starting to move back up. Seeing the 60-minute oversold here, don't pay attention to that, because I changed the condition on that. I made it a weekly, but I didn't save it, so I didn't change the name for it. But it's a weekly scan, but don't get confused that it says 60-minute. And again, Target starts to show up, Bed Bath & Beyond here starting to show up oversold on the weekly, and that makes sense. I mean, the retail stocks have been crushed, and again, here's another situation where even though they're oversold, I'm not the biggest fan on retail, so I might just keep. And Urban Outfitters, another one. Interesting, huh? EQT, let's just go down the line. I'm seeing something maybe interesting here. Qualcomm, look at how this came down. I've never seen it like just kind of slide down here. Not that steep. Interesting stochastic rotation there. Verizon here. That one really stands out for me, though, because I like Verizon here short term. And take a look at these channels. Downward channel pop, downward channel pop, downward channel pop, starting to pop back up. By far to this week, Verizon came in as one of the best bets, and it was because we had a divergence here. A double bottom divergence with a nice steep stochastic angle between the low and the higher low. So very steep. Back here you can see a nice divergence. Where did it go? Straight up. So this one almost identical. Channel breaks out during the divergence. It's already started to do that. Nothing wrong with this. And plus you have the weekly kicker, so that makes it even more interesting for me. Long 2000 back out to 2013 sideways consolidation. This is ready to break out and move higher. So Verizon here, not a bad stock to pay attention to going forward on the long-term list. AKAM here, getting oversold on the weekly. It doesn't appear this way, but I bet you that percentage K line is oversold. There is a trend line underneath us, something to keep our eyes on. I'd mark it down and to watch. The PSX, more oil and gas stocks. This is an HPS watch list based off of that daily, but these are not my favorite. These are not my favorite by far. There was a divergence back here and a divergence here that broke this out. I'd rather have a divergence any day on this type of stock. H&R Block, taxes coming up. I'm not really interested in that. Nordstrom, that showed up as a divergence on the daily plus the 60-minute setup, and you could actually see the rotation starting to push back up. So it makes a lot of sense. Interesting action here. Nordstrom. Limited brands, and again, do you see the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? You're seeing a pattern. A lot of the retail stocks getting oversold, and the oil and gas stocks. Now, if we did have Qualcomm, which was interesting. Verizon, I think, was the best. Here we have ExxonMobil oversold, but again, not my favorite. Western Union, that's interesting. That's very interesting. But with the PayPal these days, I just don't even feel comfortable there. PVH, I like that one. With the VFC, we crushed the VFC. PVH, it should be right behind it. This is nice oversold level and a nice PVH. So I'm going to write that one down. Ralph Lauren, dirt stock here, getting crushed. Under Armour, excuse me. This is not the A shares. These are just the common shares. We'll probably see that in the double A, the A shares also. That I like. Let's take a look at the I want to. Oh, what did I do? I want to just take a look at the double A here. Double A also oversold. There's something about this Under Armour I do like. I'm going to give it a couple more days. All right. CHK, not interested. BHI, or oil and gas. This one actually is a good tradable stock. Works well in patterns. Stochastic rotation works good. This is a nice little flag back to the 20-period moving average. BHI. Coles, more retail. Yeah, Coles just getting oversold, and then again, retail. And sometimes you're not going to have the setups you want. They were up to 28. We got a few more here to go. Here's your other Under Armour. This one I actually do like, the Under Armour double A's. I got that one written down, right? UAA. All right, and S Southwest Energy, not interested. Mattel, kind of interesting, but nah. And the last one here, Range Resources. Who brought this one up to? Michelob in the room. He's always asking about this. I just don't get a good feel for it. Plus now with that weekly here still pointing down, the daily seems like we're starting to break down. This might be a good short actually as we start to break down. So possible short setup here on RRC. But I'm not a big fan of breakdowns or breakouts as they tend to be very choppy. So that's our weekly scan, and we're not seeing much on the weekly scan. You know, not much at all. But let's go back to the daily, and I was just going to finish off by talking about what's going to be on the list tomorrow to pay attention to. Now, we had a couple good divergences this week. CWST, it's a waste management stock, and take a look at that divergence. Ooh, that is starting to cross back up. Already got that bounce, but you can smell it a mile away. First real pullback of that very strong trend. These are the ones you want to look for. These are the ones that we give you. Now remember, this divergence setup, just like back here, is going to be good until we get up to that 80 point up here, that 80 line. And then we'd be a little bit more concerned with securing our profits. So whatever it is, it could be a point, it could be 2 points. I mean, either a point on $11 stock is still pretty good, you know, for a fast trade. If you could pinpoint to where you're going to go, and this could be a nice divergence. I like waste management stocks. You know, garbage is something that we're probably not going to get rid of anytime soon. There's no Amazon taking our garbage away. It's actually probably adding to garbage. PEG is a new one. It came up just before, and I wanted to point it out to you. Now that was a nice consolidation and a kind of a double bottom divergence here, right here. Very strong divergence. Actually had a little divergence here that kind of chopped around and failed, and then you had a running divergence and a pop. So, and then you had a little. Did we have a divergence here? No, we didn't. But this one does look really nice. PEG, but again, utility stock. I'm not that interested in that. Did I just scribble this down and I can't see what I wrote? SC, what is this? No, that's not it. Hold on a second. All right, with Scana. No wonder. I don't know this stock. Scana Corporation. Again, daily looks pretty good. Lower trend line. Possible divergence also. Take a look at the bigger picture here. It's a $66 stock. It doesn't look that bad. We love divergences on trend lines. This almost looks like it's worth grabbing. This also might qualify as a. Actually, this would have qualified itself right here. The lower trend line, the breakdown underneath the 200-period moving average, but then we came down again underneath the 200-period moving average, and we broke back down. So, this looks pretty good here. There's a little downward channel line. These dogs are just yapping it up upstairs. It's like someone outside my place. I'm going to have to let them go. Let me go back up and check. Oh, let me finish this and I'll go up here. This actually looks good. SCG. And then we have Verizon, which we just discussed. A nice divergence on Verizon. And PVH, I like it. No divergence, but that's interesting on the weekly chart. And Under Armour, I am now back in good terms with. It's not the signal, that it's not the pattern I want, but you know, we actually got in back here and we traded this one and we got a nice pop out of it. We were in and out in one day. But soon on this one. And then I think that's it. Alright, so let me get this video out to you. And hope you enjoyed it. This is trading some stocks off of the weekly stochastic oscillator and timing it with your daily setup. Just a touch base on it. Make sure not to forget to add that to your scans or your research. I'll see you in the markets.